Hello, and welcome to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, the Outdoorsy Diva. Thanks for joining. So, joining us today on the Outdoorsy Diva podcast, we have another really special guest. Today, we have Kevin Knight of Urban Events Global and Black Travel Tube. So, welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about Urban Events Global. We'll start with that one, and then transition, and you can tell us about Black Travel Tube.
Okay, awesome. So basically, Urban Events Global started with a camping trip that we were doing in New Braunfels, Texas, and it grew from 50 people now to over 1,200 people that attend this camping trip, and it happens to be the largest camping trip in the country right now, and it's an adult camping trip. Imagine that. And so it grew from that. And basically we just started traveling around the world, which was stuff that I was already doing. So for example, this year we'll be heading to South Africa, Barbados, St. Lucia, Ghana, all in the next 6 months. And we're taking anywhere from 80 people to 400 people on some of these trips. So it's basically a travel group that brings together professional African Americans from around the country, or actually around the globe, because we have people that come from Australia and from Europe as well. We bring them all together just to travel together. There's strength in numbers, and we have fun.
I love it. And of course, I love that it started with something to do with the outdoors, right? I think that's probably the first event how I learned about that group on Instagram. So tell us a little bit more about the camping trip. And is that something that you still do?
Yeah, so the camping trip is actually taking place at the end of June, and it takes place at the end of October every year at the same place. And we have everything from sand volleyball to kickball to spades, dominoes. We have a movie night out there on a 45-foot outdoor screen. We have tubing where we float the river. We have a comedy show, karaoke, theme parties at night, and it's open bar the whole weekend. So it's basically come out, have fun. It's like a big family reunion with just a lot of friends. And we do it the last weekend of June, and then we do it Halloween weekend in October for our Fallout event. So it's twice a year, a lot of fun. Yes, people do sleep outside in tents. But we do have showers and bathrooms. That's a very popular question. We do have regular showers and regular restrooms there as well. So it's a good time.
And is it only tent camping accommodation?
No, that's like 95% of it, but we do have cabins and spaces for RVs. Now, the cabins, there's only 10 cabins. So at best, there'll be like 22 people that can actually fit in a cabin. So out of 1,000 people, you can imagine that's a very small number. But we do have cabins, and then there's RVs. We have about 22 different RV spots as well. So those go pretty quick. So as you can imagine, 95% or more of the people are literally sleeping outside in a tent.
So you got hundreds of Black people to embrace nature and the outdoors. How did you do that?
Right. Man, I have no idea. And the crazy part is the women sometimes outnumber the men with the outdoor activities. Which definitely catches me off guard, because I would think the men would outnumber the women, especially, in Texas. And, but I think the way we were able to do it is just by putting together an event where people would just come out, relax, get away from their cell phones, and just be surrounded by positive people that are looking to do something different. And once you see that, I think it's something that a lot of people are looking for. They just don't know where to find it. And so once they find us, they tell other people about us, and then they just keep coming.
I love it.
And that's the beauty of it. Instead of promoting it, it's mainly, word of mouth. I mean, you'll see some promotions every now and then, but it's mainly a word of mouth type event, because we want to keep it organic and authentic. Friends of friends of friends of friends that keep coming. That way there's no issues. It's just all fun. We haven't had any problems in the past. We're not looking forward to any problems in the future. So it's just about coming out and having a good time. And I think people see that in our pictures on social media, whether they're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it is they use. If they type in Urban Camp Weekend or any of our other companies or travel events, they'll see the pictures, the activities, the videos of the actual event. And the proof is there.
And let me tell you, the word of mouth is working because that's how I found you. I think, I don't know how many people tagged me in that event. They were like, oh my God, this has Outdoorsy Diva's name all over it. You have to go. You need to do this. You have to meet up with them. So it's working. So, when I assume you probably do outdoor recreation just on your own. It's something that you like, that you enjoy. What is your feeling about how it's being embraced right now within the Black community?
As it relates to camping or just getting outside, living in Houston and Dallas and living in a state and cities where you can pretty much go outdoors, you know, through all seasons, winter, fall, summer, spring. It seems a little normal to me, but it's also about what you're involved in. For example, if you're part of a bicycle club or a kickball club or flag football team, you're used to being outside. The people you're around are inviting you around other people that are used to being outside, or trail riders, or so. I mean, you kind of, I don't know. It just seems normal to me. I guess it just seems normal being here in Texas.
Awesome. So, what do you consider adventure seeking? I saw on the website, that it's a group for adventure seekers. So, I know that's kind of a relative term for some people. So, for you, how do you define adventure?
Well, it's up to the individual, but how I define it is basically stepping outside of your comfort zone. So, for example, right after the camping trip, July 3rd, 4th, 5th, that whole 4th of July weekend and a few extra days, we'll be in Cape Town, South Africa. So if you decide to go hand gliding or parasailing while we're out in South Africa, that's adventure seeking. For some of the people that are coming, this is their first time on an airplane. That alone is an adventure for them. For others, it's their first time on an airplane ride this long. It's not a short trip. So the adventure is really stepping outside of your own comfort zone. Personally, I've gone skydiving. I've jumped off the Stratosphere building in Vegas. I've I've done a lot of various things to get my heart pumping, but I think some of those could be on, more on the extreme side versus the norm. But a lot of people just, getting that first stamp or a different stamp on their passport, traveling to, Thailand or Rio, and all these are places we've been in the last couple of years. They just really enjoy themselves, and they just enjoy the experience in the safety of being in a group, to where if something goes wrong, they have, 40 other people in a group chat that they can reach out to.
Absolutely. And tell me a little bit about, with the trips that you all curate, how it works, what people can expect, what you provide that you wouldn't get, if you plan this trip on your own.
Yeah. So one of the things, I come from the school of thought that I thought travel agents were pretty much worthless, right? And I still, for the most part, think they are pretty much worthless. But there are certain things as it relates to traveling to some different countries out there where you need someone to tell you what you don't know. For example, if you go to Barbados and you have on cargo shorts that are camouflage, they will make you change, or they'll make you walk around in your underwear, because that's illegal. You can't wear camouflage cargo shorts in Barbados, and some other islands as well. There are various customs that you have to be aware of, money exchange. So what we do is we make the process easy. We give them basically a 20-page packet of information before the trip, and it goes over the customs of the country, what to look out for, how to get the visa, where to expect to find us. When you land, we're going to pick you up. We're going to take you to the hotel. After that, there'll be a group dinner. So we basically lay out this whole itinerary, but we also keep it flexible to where you can do your own thing as well, because this is also your vacation. But there's going to be free breakfast every morning. We go on different tours. There's going to be a tour bus in the lobby by 8 a.m. or 10 a.m., depending on where we're going. If you get on the bus, cool. If not, we're not going to call your room or look for you. We're just going to assume you slept in and decided to do it another time. And we take off and go. So it's just a way to get people out, comfortable traveling, and it gives them that environment to where if you want to go shopping on Sunday, and you want to go with 3 other people, just post it in the group and say, hey, I'm going shopping on Sunday. Whoever wants to go, meet me in the lobby. And then someone else is going to post in the group, well, hey, I'm going four-wheeling or off-roading that day with this tour company. Meet me in the lobby at 10 if you're interested. And so you have events inside of events where you're allowing people the opportunity to network with other people that are on the same vacation and do things that they specifically want to do, that they wanted to do on their own. And I think what happens, some of what we've found is that we've all been on that wonderful trip with our friends back in college or high school or wherever, and you've never been able to duplicate that because life happens. And trying to get 10 of your friends together to go anywhere, start off with 10, you end up with 2 at best. You
Right.
know, people make friends on our events and they start traveling together. So they always know, well, my friend in Tennessee, who I met on the last trip, will also be in Ghana with us at the end of the year. So cool, I'll book the trip and I'll just room with her. And that's literally your travel buddy that you met at another event that we had. So you have your own crew back in your regular hometown of Tallahassee or Dallas or wherever you might live. But when it comes to traveling, you have a whole different travel crew that always has the finances and means to travel, and you don't have to worry about organizing it. You just pay, get on the flight, and we handle everything else.
And when it comes to the groups that you take, about how many people do you take? Is it capped depending on the trip and where you're going?
It depends on the trip. Yeah, each trip is different, and each trip has its own capacity limits. For example, some countries don't have 55 passenger buses. So if they only have a 30 passenger bus, then and I only want to deal with, let's say, 3 or 4 buses, then I know my cap is 120 people because I'm looking at filling those buses when we do go on the tours. Certain hotels, depending on the capacity of the hotel, I don't like to split hotels. I like to have all of our guests at one hotel. So if we sell that hotel out, well, then we've just reached our capacity. And that's it. Because I don't want to wake up in the morning and have our bus have to go through 2 or 3 different hotels to pick up our guests. Most of the time, we find a pretty large hotel to where we don't run across that problem, but we have sold out some pretty large hotels before, and it was fine. It was cool. We just shut it off, and we had a great event.
And do you offer a personalized itinerary customization as a part of your services?
What we do is we'll have our event and what we're going to do, but in our packet, we'll give them ways to reach out to other tour companies. If they get there and want to go on like a special wine tour, then we'll say, hey, we vetted out these 2 wine companies. These are 2 wine companies that are legit that you should check out if you want to go on a wine tour. If you want to go take a helicopter ride, these are the 2 companies we recommend. So we give recommendations. We're not going to plan it for you. No,
Gotcha.
it doesn't. Not at this point. It doesn't make. We'll give you the resources to do it on your own. But when you start customizing for 200-300 different people, you create more chaos than it's worth. And so it's better to give them the phone number and the website to the company, have them book it on their own. Any problems that they have with that company, they can reach out to them directly, because we're not going to be able to stop our main event to sit in a hotel on hold for an hour and a half because your tour guide for your wine tour didn't show up. And now we're holding up 200 other people that wanted to do something different that day. We're not going to do that.
Absolutely. And are you personally attending all of the trips?
I do. I do attend all of them. What else am I going to do? Just sit at home while y'all are out there having fun? Like, of course, I want to go. I do attend all the trips. I obviously have a vested interest in making sure all the trips go well. But yeah, no, I go on all the trips. There are certain tours that I may not go on. For example, this July when we head to Cape Town, South Africa, I'm not going to go visit Robben Island. I'm not going to go visit Table Mountain. I've been to those places enough times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll send a staff member to kind of guide the group out there, but I physically do not want to sit through another Nelson Mandela, speech at Robben Island and hear the story. Like I've heard them more times than more than enough. I've been to the Table Mountain. I've been to some of the touristy places enough times. It's like going to New York. You don't want to keep going to the Statue of Liberty, So after, so during that time period when I'm sending a staff member with that group, I may go venture out and do something by myself that I just haven't done before, or I may sit in a hotel and just keep working on stuff for another event that we have coming up and
Gotcha.
getting ready for the night, because we have some pretty long days when we're traveling because people always want to go out at night. Now, don't get me wrong, that's the fun part for me. So while y'all are out on tour, I'm resting up so when it's time to go out at night, we can have some fun. For those that still want to party, because when you wake up at 8 o'clock to go on tour all day, and then you still want to go out at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I would be exhausted. So I kind of cheat a little bit. I'll sleep in, won't go on the tour, but I'll go out at night.
Right. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Especially kind of once you get past that age 35, you start to travel just a little different, I think.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay,
And
so
I'm past that age. Yeah.
we never tell. So
hmm
switching gears a little bit, tell us about Black Travel Tube and how that kind of ties in.
Yeah. So what I noticed that the Black travel space is very siloed. Um, and there are just, quite frankly, a lot of groups that won't work with other groups because of previous whatever grievances, or just because they are like crabs in a barrel and don't realize that they're a lot stronger if they work together. So Black Travel Tube was a space that I created, and it's still growing and I'm still working on it. But it's a space where any Black travel group out there can post their events. Any bloggers or YouTubers that want to talk about traveling um, can post their videos. They can post their blogs, or they could post their events. So what I'm trying to create is a one-stop shop for all the African American travel groups and all the African Americans who want to travel. Let's say you want to go to Puerto Rico or you want to go to Botswana or Australia. You could type that into the search engine, and any event that's happening there that's curated by an African American travel group here in the U.S. will pop up. Any blog that was written about that, any YouTube video that breaches that touches on that topic will pop up, and it just makes it easy instead of Googling and reading reviews. And you have a one-stop shop where you can get it from all perspectives, because traveling from our perspective is different than traveling from other perspectives.
Absolutely. And so for like the bloggers and YouTubers, is it actually linking back to the source of the content?
Yes. So what they can do, they can actually copy and paste their own blog on there, but then there's a link to go to the original blog site, so they can also get their hits or views or whatever it is that blogger or YouTuber wants. The good thing about the videos is we basically embed their YouTube video. They could do it themselves because they can just log in and upload their own content. But it embeds their YouTube video onto our site, but they still get their original YouTube views, which is important to them because for some of the major bloggers out there, that's how they get paid.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That sounds like a
That,
really useful tool and one that I should probably be investigating for myself, right?
yeah, I would think so, because we definitely give people the opportunity and platform to talk about travel in a non-competitive space, in a non-biased space. I have a travel group and I happen to own that company. However, it's for any travel group out there can sign in, register, and post their stuff.
Great. I love it. I love how you see a need and you're trying to do something to meet that need, especially with collaboration in this Black travel industry that we're in. So, how have you seen the market for Black travel kind of change? You've been in the industry for a while, you've been traveling for a long time. I know you were, an army brat, if you will, growing up.
hmm
You've been traveling your whole life. So, how have you seen it, I guess, morph and change kind of within this last decade, last 5 years, even?
I think a lot of it is just the internet, right? People feel comfortable doing things that they see other people already doing. Before, you would hear about someone going on vacation and they might show you some pictures from that vacation. Now you could just pull it up on Instagram or Facebook and see thousands of people traveling to Dubai or this place and that place. And you're thinking, okay, it must not be that hard. And so it gives people that confidence to say, well, if they could do it, I can do it. Or that place looks nice. I want to visit there. So, the mystery behind travel is starting to disappear. You don't need a travel agent. You just need a quick Google search and just go buy a plane ticket and go, you know? And so I think it's become more accessible. And with that, of course, African Americans are traveling a lot more. But that's because we have the means to travel more at this point, or we're getting there. And travel has gotten a lot cheaper than what it used to be. Traveling was expensive, in the 80s, early 90s. Now it's as expensive as you want it to be. If you want to get on a quick Spirit flight, knock yourself out. It's a cheap flight. If you want to fly first class on another major airline, well, that's going to be a different price, but it's up to you. You want to be in a 5-star hotel, then you're going to spend a little bit more money. But if you want to be in you want to split an Airbnb with 5 of your friends, you could save a lot of money. So
Absolutely.
it's up to you. Traveling doesn't have to be expensive. You just have to have some money in your pocket and the days off work to go.
The dreaded PTO balance.
Exactly.
I
Got to
can't
have
tell
that
you.
vacation time.
Can't tell you how many trips and dreams have been thwarted because of that PTO balance. So,
Uh-huh.
so speaking of cost, what could people expect to spend? Give them a range, I guess, of what they can expect if they're planning, especially for one of your trips or events.
Cool. I say it could range from $500 a person for some of our island trips to, $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 a person. It really just depends on the destination, and it depends, most importantly, on how many people are going to be in your room. If you want a room by yourself, it's going to be way more expensive than if you're sharing a room with 4 other people. Like for example, we did St. Thomas over Labor Day weekend, 4 days, 3 nights, and that was $500 a person if you were in a 4-person room. And if you don't have 3 other friends, we can help you find 3 other friends to room with. It's up to you. We do match people with guests if they want us to. But let's say you want a 1-person room to Ghana for 6-7 days for the Afrochella event. That could be $2,000. So it really just depends on the event. I would say the average would probably say expect to spend about $1,000, 900. I'd say about $950 would be a good average of the events. Now our camping trip starts off pretty low, but that's a different type of event. That you could start off getting tickets at like $75 or $85 for the whole weekend
And for
if
the
you get them early.
international trips, does this include airfare or they get that separately?
That's separate. We always
Okay.
do airfare separately. If they do want us to help them book a flight and customize, then we do have staff that will help them do that. I typically tell them we have a partnership with Skyscanner, and I just usually send them the link and say, hey, use this link. If you use this link, you'll get a little small discount, nothing major. But if you don't want to do that and you want us to do it for you, then there's a cost associated with that. And my team will put that together for you, because then you have to tell us where you're flying from, what your special needs are, if you have special dietary needs, window versus aisle seats. Like that's a more cumbersome process. But it's better for us not to include flights, because you have so many people that have, especially in Texas, there's a lot of people with flight benefits in Texas, because we're the home of so many airlines, from Southwest to American Airlines. Continental United is kind of halfway based in Houston and Chicago. So many people that travel with different hookups or travel benefits, to where we don't want you to pay for something you're not using, or pay extra for a flight that you're already going to be on for free. So we just take that out of the equation.
So tell me about what the most impactful trip of your life has been so far.
That's easy. Guanajuato, Mexico, December 26th of 2000 to January 15th, 2001. I was in college. It was a study abroad trip for me to get a Spanish credit. So I was actually going to class in Mexico. And it was just, from the time I landed, it was just, everything was new. Everything. The way I looked at the world at that time was probably a little more superficial from a monetary standpoint. but living in Mexico amongst families, getting on the bus, going to school, being with other exchange students, but actually seeing the culture, like the real culture, not Cancun or Acapulco, but the real Mexican culture. Um, it was just refreshing and humbling because so many people are in poverty where we were at. But to see the level of happiness they had was confusing to me. Like, how are these people so happy and so poor at the same time? And then you start to realize money doesn't always equal happiness. And these people were all about, family, friends, and experiences, and enjoying each other's company. So it just changed the way I looked at travel, the way I looked at the world, and it changed me as a person, just living there for that time period. Um, so yeah, that's the most impactful trip, was the trip to Mexico. Yeah.
I absolutely agree, right? It's great when you see the human spirit like that, when you see people who, they don't have much and they're willing to really like give you the very last of whatever they have to give you that
Hmm.
hospitality and that kindness. That's what made me like want to see more of the world. It was like, you know what? Humans really aren't that bad.
Right, right. And traveling and seeing the good in people. I remember people said that Paris or France was real. Like, the people were real rude. And I remember we were walking to the Louvre, and it was me and my friend, or my ex girlfriend, and you could tell we were kind of confused because we had a map in our hand and we're trying to figure out which direction to go. And this lady just came out of nowhere and just said, "Hey, I speak English. I can help you. I can help you guys." And she was obviously French, but she knew a little bit of English, and she got us going the right direction. We didn't ask her for help; she just came out of nowhere, and that's that's not normal, for especially for us, for people to just want to help African Americans lost in the middle of the street. That just doesn't happen. I've traveled a lot; it just doesn't happen. And so you start seeing that some of the stuff you've heard about some of these places just simply aren't true, or it was just that one person's experience, but not necessarily going to be your experience. Um, so traveling selfishly, you can kind of find yourself, but also discover new norms, and just new different aspects of life.
And so, what's probably the best advice you would give for new travelers or people who, want to try to be more adventurous? They've read some of the things that we see on the news that deters people or scares them from traveling or going to certain places. Just give some advice to some of those listeners.
My advice would be, I'm a numbers guy, right? I'm about statistics and numbers. If I lived in another country and I watched the American news, I would never want to travel to America because it looks bad. I would never want to travel to Chicago. They're killing people every single day there. I would never want to travel to New Orleans. I would never travel to Houston. I would never. Where would I travel to if I lived in another country and I watched their daily news? The U.S. is scary if you think about it. So the news that you see about these other countries, what makes it any different than the country you live in? If you live in a major city in the U.S., somebody's getting shot, killed every day, or robbed, or both. So, so my advice would be, take the news with a grain of salt. Now, if there's armed militias and they're protesting and they're burning down the city and country, then yeah, don't travel to that country just yet. But if it just talks about the crime or some violence, well, hell, that's in the U.S. So my thing to new travelers would be, unless that country is going through some type of civil war or major, political assassinations or something, continue to go. People travel to Mexico all the time, Cancun, Acapulco. They have their drug lords out there are major. They just they just keep them away from the touristy places because they don't want to mess up their money. So you have to know how to really look at the news and don't let the news deter you from traveling. Because if that's the case, you might as well just sit in your house and order Uber Eats or something all day long. I don't know. But I say, grab a friend or find a travel group that you feel comfortable with, book a flight and just go. And use a certain level of street smarts if you don't feel comfortable. Don't go off the beaten path. Don't go wandering off into the, you know, down dark streets or something. Just use common sense. Yeah, that's really it. It's not hard. And I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone who's never really traveled or ventured out far. Just be open. Just be open to new things and different customs. Personal space is different in other countries. They if you like a lot of personal space, then you're gonna feel a little claustrophobic in other countries because they do have a different sense of personal space. They will be right up on you, and they don't think much of it. It's just that's how they operate. Everything is not going to be like it is in America because you're not in America. They're just different social norms. So just be open to being in a different place and just accepting that's how they do it here.
And I agree. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest question, honestly, that I get is how do you get over the fear? You get people in my inbox all the time. And that's their number one deterrent is that they are afraid. And I'm like, well, I mean, I could be kidnapped going to Target, one of my favorite pastimes during the week when I'm home. But I think, if it's going to happen, I'd rather see some really beautiful scenery while it's happening. I mean, I can't control what I can't control, and it's just too much
Exactly.
in the world
And let's
to not
and
try.
let's be honest. And let's be honest. Like Black people, African Americans around the world, when we're traveling, like we don't. When it comes to being kidnapped, we don't fit the demographic. To be honest with you, they want the older white couple where they look like they can actually get some good ransom money from. We don't. They don't picture us as getting a lot of ransom money. Let's be honest. So that kind
Yep.
of works in our favor. You know. Now we do stand out. Because we're Black, and you don't see a lot of Black people just traveling the world. Like I, I see it because I'm in that industry, but I realize that if you live in China or you live in Thailand and you're just a regular citizen of those countries, you don't see African Americans that much. So they will stop, stare. Some of them will want to take pictures with you. Some of them will want to touch your hair. I have mixed feelings on that. I look at it like this: like we're kind of an ambassador for African Americans in the United States of America. And what I mean by that is what they see of us is what they see in the movies or TV shows, which is not really the best light, right? So when you're there, you almost have to do the opposite and show them that we're not all like the Real Housewives of Atlanta or whatever ratchet thing that they saw Black people do on the internet the other day. They simply don't know that, or they've literally never seen a Black person in their life, which is quite normal in some countries.
It's very normal and way more places than you would think. 'Cause
Yeah,
there's people who really don't venture more than a few miles from honestly where they live. That is their whole entire life
that's
and
their world.
livelihood is right there.
Well, you have to keep in mind that not everyone can just like our plane ticket to get to their country costs more money than they will make in a whole year for a lot of these people. So for your average citizen in these places that they may be living on $50 a month, $100, it's unfathomable to spend $1,000 on a plane ticket. Like they don't even have a passport or a visa to go anywhere. Like it's unheard of. It's not happening. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So,
So,
so
and I guess as we wrap up, tell us where you're most looking forward to going. Well, I guess first, how many countries have you been to? Do you know?
I've been to someone just asked me this. I think it was 40 something.
Okay.
Um, it was around 40 something the last time I
So what's
checked.
what's left on your bucket list?
I will never be able to fulfill a bucket list if I live to be 400 years old because there's there's so many different countries and corners of the earth to go. Um, and even if you went once, you still didn't scratch the surface. So you have to go a second time during another season, a third time during another season, because you know you can go to New York 10 times and experience 10 totally different experiences. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just New York. So imagine Cape Town, South Africa, or Frankfurt, Germany, or Rio, Brazil, Thailand. Beijing. You could travel to these places 100 times and experience 100 different things in the same location because there's just not enough time during a 6, 7, 8 day trip to do everything. If you're into food, there's a million restaurants you can eat at. If you're into wine or whatever you're into, there are multiple options in all these places to go over and over and over. So, I don't really have any countries or destinations I'm looking forward to. I want to get to all of them as many times as possible. That's it.
Fair enough.
That's really it.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. So tell people where they can find out more about Urban Events Global.
Absolutely. So obviously you can go to our website, urbaneventsglobal.com. That's the easiest way. But if you're on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat, YouTube, LinkedIn, literally whatever you're on, if you type in Urban Events Global or Urban Camp Weekend or Urban Excursion Weekend or Urban Cruise Weekend or Black Travel Tube, you'll see all of our stuff on there. You'll see pictures, you'll see videos, you'll see the people that come on our events, you'll see reviews, you'll see our groups on Facebook. You could join the group, you could join the conversation. It's kind of like a big family. So Urban Events Global is all they have to remember, whether it's hashtag or add us, you'll find us.
And I'll have all of that information for you down in the show notes with links to the website and to the Facebook group. Thank you so much, Kevin. It was a pleasure to have you and to learn a little bit more about the awesome business and service that you offer.
Oh, thanks for having me. I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. Be sure to check out Misadventures of an Outdoorsy Diva blog on outdoorsydiva.com. You can also keep up with me and my adventures, so check out all of my social channels. Find Outdoorsy Diva on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest.